The acting head of the FDA was doing a little too much hanging with the anti-abortion crowd and making some scary promises to all of them.
What that means for access to medication abortion does not bode well, and we have the scoop.
Plus, Erica Kirk held the Ladies Auxiliary weekend of Turning Point USA, and we have some of the highlights?
Lowlights.
Yeah, mostly.
And Instagram's medical clapback queen, Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, is here to talk about dragging Maha misinfo and her latest release called The Birth Book.
The Birth Book walks you through all the deets involved in the actual act of giving birth, so you can advocate for yourself for the delivery you want and deserve.
All this and the abortion news of the week coming up on the Feminist Buzzkills podcast, the show that has a really bad case of Nick's fever.
Go Knicks!
Go
Oh my God!
Knicks!
That was a not game. What that game? What that game? Oh my God.
My mayor's Muslim, ...
Yeah.
It's really exciting here.
I heard the new chant.
What's the new one?
My mayor's still Muslim. My bagel's still Jewish. The Pope's on our side. Knicks in 5.
That's a good, okay, the Pope's on our side.
Yeah, that's the new one. Yeah.
I like that one. It's great. It's exciting being in New York during Nick's historic little street.
It is.
I'm Moji Alawode-El, and I'm joined by my co-host, Liz Winstead.
C'est moi.
And we had a fun time this weekend. Liz, we were at Tribeca Film Festival together.
We were go Knicks. Okay, I'll
was-
stop. We went to go see a documentary that I had a tiny part as a talking head in called Hollywood Does Abortion, which was a really cool documentary about just kind of 80% of how Hollywood really gets it wrong when it comes to abortion storylines and 20% when they get it right.
And also how it sets the tone on how the nation thinks about abortion or thinks abortion's going, right? Like everyone thought everything was hunky-dory, and then Roe fell and they were like, what?
Yeah.
And then storylines moved to people are dying because they can't get abortions, just a whole 20 years too late.
Well, I think they really, just through the history of film and television, the way that they have stigmatized abortion or not had people have abortions and made them fall downstairs, or really like shaming doctors and shaming patients. And it was always it was bad for the cultural zeitgeist, I think. And I think part of that is because, Moji, I firmly believe that Hollywood shouldn't be telling abortion stories. Abortion havers should be able to tell their stories, and Hollywood should be talking to those people about what their experiences were. You know, it's just like, why are we relying on narrative drama to help us talk about abortion? We don't do that with any other medical procedure.
The documentary actually proved your point, because the examples where it was done right, it was a room full of people who've had abortions or individuals who'd had abortions where they really took their experiences and made them a narrative story, but like built into the heart of either what they'd experienced or what they'd hoped to experience having experienced abortion. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Also, you said it was a tiny part, and yeah, but you were in fantastic company. There were some fantastic talking heads on the documentary.
There were really good experts. And so Hollywood Does Abortion. They're just starting the sort of festival circuit now. So we'll keep you posted on when that is coming to a theater near you, because it's really worth it. It's really worth it to go. But also, that wasn't the only glitzy, glammy thing that happened last weekend, Moji. Now, was it?
No, but nobody invited us to the TPUSA Lady Weekend. No one said, Moji, Liz, Feminist Buzzkills will really represent our mission. Come on. No. In San Antonio, Texas, last weekend, about 3,000 women descended on the Turning Point USA Women's Leadership Summit. It was called Curated for Her, Holistic, Empowered, Redeemed. And it was as terrifying as it sounds, actually.
I mean, its mission is what you could imagine. Just a whole weekend of, it's all God's plan, so don't resist it. Biblical marriage is hot. Only if you're Christian, though. Right?
Only if you're Christian. Yeah, there was only, and really only if you're white.
Yeah.
I mean, there might have been people there who weren't white, but I couldn't spot them.
And they tried to put on these airs that were not political. So I guess they had pins that said, it's not political, it's biblical. And basically they just hammered home that a woman's place and purpose is in homemaking and having babies, and anything out of that is outside of God's design. And, cranking out babies is the servitude of the husband, and just do that. Why challenge it?
And to spread this gospel, again, we had Erica Kirk there. We also had some great doozies. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Who wants to hear from her?
Not a goddamn person. She doesn't even look happy.
She really always is looking like Little House on the Scary vibes. Every time you see her, she's in some gingham outfit.
And looking dour.
Looking dour.
I don't know if she knows how to smile.
No, I don't think she does either.
And, I wouldn't tell her to, because we should stop telling women to smile, but it might help.
Yeah, I know. Of course, unavoidable for comment and fifth pace swimmer transphobe Riley Gaines.
She's really made a life out of being a transphobe.
She'll just show up, and that is her. Yeah, I guess so. That's her whole life. I'm a transphobe and a loser.
We also had Kayleigh McEnany, who was a former Trump spokesblonde, so I should actually know how to say that.
That's right.
Current Fox News host blonde.
Yeah. And then Kristen Hawkins, the usual suspects. And then a whole bunch of handmaids for the patriarchy, aka white women who have millions of followers. Have you ever heard of them?
Never, honestly, never. And looking at the clips and seeing people roaring in the background with inside jokes was terrifying. Never heard of these women.
I know.
Dozens of them.
And we'll get to talking about what that means for us in a minute. What I found was interesting is that it was less MAGA and way more MAHA, the whole sort of vibe, right?
Yeah, I think that the Epstein files have kind of thrown them for a loop, and everything that Trump promised them, they don't have, right? I mean, we have the subjugation of queer people and of Black people, but we don't have eggs on the Jeep.
No,
right?
no. And so, their themes are exactly what you thought. It was very glossy, very showy, really emblematic of sort of the Erica Kirk look, just like high-end, haughty-looking people giving really terrifying advice, sort of EV magazine, aspirational hotness, that you can be hot and be hot for your husband, and it's hot to have kids. And it felt very modern, but the themes were so fucking backwards. So we have some clips for you, and we wanted to just play a couple of sound bites that kind of helped sort of give you a clue of the kind of vitriol that was coming out of these bitches. So let's toss to the first one.
Of course, one of their big grievances is with feminism on all fronts, and they think it's unholy. Roll the clip.
The truth is, feminism was and is an entirely spiritual movement. It is the Jezebel spirit rebranded as empowerment and freedom. To live a virtuous life of abundance as a woman, you must reject the lies of this culture. Feminism is the biggest lie we have ever been sold as women. Now you may say, well, Savannah, I reject modern feminism, but I agree with the principles of feminism. And I would challenge you on that. Because while the textbook definition of feminism is about equality between the sexes and women having agency over their own lives, what feminism actually is a movement funded by the wealthiest evil people with the goal to destroy marriage and family.
Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, that's what feminism. I didn't know feminism had the money for that. That's exciting.
It's exciting. So that was a woman named Savannah Faith Stone, who is one of these influencers I have never heard of, who's got a jillion followers on Instagram. And you know what, bitch? Feminism allowed you to speak into that amplification system without asking someone's permission. So they love to speak about how feminism sucks, but then they take advantage of all of it, right? Feminism allowed you to have a bra that works. Feminism gave you fucking tampons. Feminism gave us a lot of shit.
Every single right that they enjoy and want to take away from us is literally feminism. There was not a man at that conference. It was just a bunch of women clucking about how horrible it is to be able to be around women.
It's the same thing where over and over again, when we've been out on the road and these anti-abortion, post-menopausal women like me, they'll they're testifying and they'll be like, I've had 3 abortions. And they're terrible, and I regret them all. It's because you can no longer get pregnant. You have this luxury of doing that. It's the same thing. You're rich. You found a rich husband. You have a platform that all that feminism gave you. And now you're like, feminism's terrible because I don't need it. Oh, really? You don't need it? Well, when your weird married trad husband tells you otherwise and leaves you when you've aged out, what skills do you have? Screaming about feminism is not a skill.
Except for these women, they do have jobs. This is their job. They probably make millions of dollars doing this thing that they would not be allowed to without feminism.
Right. They get to speak about how much feminism harms people because of feminism. You should thank feminism for that. That's wild. But then also it got weirder. She also is one of those people who pushes for the one vote, one family idea. She's very much let my husband tell me what to do. You know, she's on board with all of that. And this hatred of feminism and that feminism is the Jezebel spirit was really taken by a lot of the speakers. And there was a Australian woman named Nolene Sidra who really went off on not only the Jezebel spirit, but, you know, the nature of us being witches.
Feminism actually has satanic roots. The first wave feminists, what most people won't tell you, what the history books that are all critiqued by feminists and written by feminists, that's the problem with history. Like the feminist historians are all feminists, so of course they're going to write it in the best possible way. They're not going to tell you that women were put on the witch trials because they were killing children, they were midwives, they were bringing abortions. They're not going to tell you that that is why the church was burning women at the stake, because they were torturing and murdering children in the womb.
Here's what I love about this. She's bitching that feminist history was only told by feminists, and feminists did the studying and the history and the research and told the stories, and they never told us the story.
What feminist historians?
I'm about to tell you. It's like, bitch, the reason you know about feminists helping do herbal abortions was because feminists wrote about it. Like, what is wrong with her?
And also, I'm sorry, but the decision to burn women at the stake were done by men who recorded it.
Yeah.
Not feminists.
No.
What are you talking about? What feminist historians were chronicling the way women were subjugated in early America? Not feminists, not women. That was men's work.
Well, feminist scholars wrote about the fact that women were burnt at the stake because they were doing herbal abortions.
Yes, and they had to go back and look at men's research to find that.
Yes, exactly. So
my point. This woman's like, the feminists wrote the novels, and it's like based on men's research. The men were really proud of what they'd done.
yeah. For all of you who are like descendants of Satan, apparently, like all of us who just would like to live our lives and choose our destinies.
Have some autonomy.
And, you know, the thing that was such a bummer about this was, you know, we were looking at a bunch of clips from the event and people who were posting on Instagram, and the attendees were here for it. They were here to learn about it. They were here to double down on their decisions about it. And we found this Instagram post that's way longer than the clip we're about to play of just the attendees talking about how they feel about one family, one vote.
As a Christian woman who has a very healthy connection with my husband, I vote the same way he does. So honestly, I would be okay with giving up my right to vote because I know that he would represent me well.
If he was voting on behalf of our household, I would be fine with that.
Do you think your daughter should have the right to vote?
I'd be okay if she didn't, because I also know she's going to marry a biblical man, that they would also be in line.
I would as well give up my vote if it got rid of like things like abortion. I feel like with my mindset, I would want to put my vote in, but the majority of women are liberal, and I think getting rid of that would actually help women.
The hubris of talking for all women and feeling like my opinion and what I think that is not what the majority wants is in fact the best thing is chilling.
And also just saying, I don't like the way liberal women vote, so we should end the vote. Like, what about the way that Black folks vote or immigrants vote or anybody that doesn't vote the way you vote votes? And also, what happens if again, this is what I don't understand. If your husband dies, who votes for you? Your father? Your son?
Your uncle?
Like, what is that? Like, what are you acting like? I don't even understand it. And, you know, it's funny because I was looking at when we were looking through these clips and stuff, and I was looking at the comments on these different clips, there was a lot of people commenting, being like, Erica Kirk, you shouldn't be running an organization. You need to be home with your children. Why are you doing this? And I just had this revelation, Moji, that basically Erica Kirk is the new Phyllis Schlafly.
1000%.
Right? Just hypocritical, out there in the world, trying to be a power resource, telling everybody to stay home and raise their kids when she's not home raising her kids at all.
Trying to dictate a life that she's not leading,
Yes.
but as a model for all other women, as the best model that she's not even following in any way.
The whole thing is scary to me. The fact that there was so many people there speaking who had massive followings on Instagram, these people came there to see them. Again, it's been the ongoing problem with the left is that we don't know who's influencing the right. When Charlie Kirk died, a bunch of people didn't know who he was.
Yep.
Ben Shapiro, huge influencer. Most people don't know who he is. And now you've got this block of women who are very influential to young women, giving them a message that they don't need to have the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to stay on top of it. I feel like we should be thinking about how we showcase who these people are, because I'm a firm believer that you don't just platform someone, you platform someone, then you talk about the influence they have so that people know how to fight back. And not knowing who's out there in the world influencing young people, we will continue to lose ground on our own humanity if we are not aware of who we're fighting.
We in our like workspace often bring up the most absurd of the most absurd we hear, and even sort of going through the clips, because we just talked about a tiny bit of what was said there, but going through them and trying to decide what was interesting, I was overwhelmed by how much of this messaging is getting out there, and how even thinking that I'm a little bit plugged in, gobsmacked by who these people were, gobsmacked by the millions of followers that they had, gobsmacked.
And gobsmacked by how good they are at packaging it to look modern, to look hip, to look like something aspirational. It's not fucking Little House on the Prairie people.
No,
It is
tight dresses, well done makeup.
Yep. Looking
blowouts.
hot, blowouts,
Mhm.
the whole thing. So I think we need to pay attention. And also, that's a good transition into why we got to where we are, which is why this abortion battle, they are on it, right? This whole conference was so much about medication abortion. We want men to make decisions. And we're watching now as medication abortion is under attack, not only with legislation, but also the FDA has just signed down, which we're going to talk about in a little while, to do some kind of study, we don't know, to try to ban access to medication abortion or take it off the market outright. And so we at Abortion Access Front have decided, hey, let's team up with some of our besties out there in the movement and try to get as many abortion stories from people who've used these pills so that we can have lived experiences to counteract the narrative. And we're super excited to do it.
We're asking anyone who feels comfortable, who has used Miffy during the past 26 years it's been on the market, to share their experiences. You can anonymously submit your story in a simple form we've created at miffystories.com.
That's right. We really want to get as many stories as we can, thousands of them, so we can deliver to the FDA these real life experiences from all of you who've had medication abortions to drown out the misinformation of a study or whatever they decide to come up with that's happening at the FDA.
So we've started getting stories in, and they are so beautiful. I love them. I cry. I smile inside when I read them. And we decided that every week while we're doing this campaign, we should just read one of them on the pod so you can be inspired and hear what people are sharing with us. So this week we've decided to feature Courtney. Liz, you want to start?
Sure. Here's how the story goes. Hi, I'm Courtney, and I had medication abortion in North Carolina in 2025. I found out I was pregnant when I missed my period, and my breasts were super tender. I took a pregnancy test after I missed my period, and my first thought was, fuck, I can't have a child right now. I'm recently married, but we weren't ready to take that on. I want an abortion. So I decided to have a medication abortion because it felt easier than the other procedure and was less invasive.
I received my abortion pills from an organization. From start to finish, the process was both easy and challenging. Easy because Planned Parenthood made the process as simple as they could with the state's 72-hour waiting period, which is an absurd policy, by the way. I knew I wanted an abortion when I went to the clinic. I did not need the unnecessary hassle of the government thinking women are incapable of making our own medical decisions.
I wish I could have gotten it sooner, aka the first day I went to my appointment. I took the pills at home with my dogs and my husband, and I felt relief. I was hoping it would pass soon so I could be sure there was nothing left to worry about. My husband cared for me as I let it pass. What surprised me most was the protesters and how invasive they were. The worst parts were one, having to drive from Tennessee to North Carolina to get medical care, and two, having self proclaimed Christians scream at you while you're trying to go to your doctor's appointment.
Because I had access to medication abortion, I was able to continue attending graduate school. Now we can start our family when we are ready to provide for one. We still plan to have 4 children. I felt the process should have been easier. It should have been the exact same as a pap smear appointment, with 0 protesters outside opposing evidence-based medical care, spewing hatred and malice. I also have yet to share my story with anyone aside from my husband, knowing I will lose friends and family if they knew. I've never felt so alone getting a medical procedure. I had support for my endoscopy and my colonoscopy, but had no one for my abortion. I felt so alone.
I'm sharing my story because no one should be forced to carry a pregnancy. Medical care should be between a doctor and a patient. No one else, especially the government, should restrict our access as women to medical services. I want change. I want people to be far better Christians and people. This should be a no-brainer, yet women are dying across the country because we do not have access to medical services.
Medication abortion is freedom, the freedom to choose if and when to have children without fear of coercion, violence, or government interference.
Amen to that,
Hell yeah.
And that is just like, it's one of the many beautiful stories that we've got at miffystories.com. So head over there, read what's come in so far. And if you've got a story, please submit it. The form that we have there for you, it just offers you simple prompts to guide your storytelling and doesn't require your email. And we won't collect your data, so your privacy is protected.
It's a brave and truly meaningful way that you can help protect access to these pills for the people who need it. And we love bringing you this content. So how's about investing in us with a monthly pledge to your Buzzkills at Patreon?
That's right. With a pledge as low as $5, less than a cup of fancy coffee, you can support us making sure that each week we bring you the abortion news that no one else is bringing.
Listen, if you aren't already a Patreon member, just sign up. Not only will you get a birthday shout out, you'll also support our fantastic content and get cool FBK merch and cool FBK experiences.
That's right. All pledges support this pod and all activism at Abortion Access, friends. So just pledge at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills. Get on it.
And lastly, our featured bit of activism for you to jump on this week. Listen, AAF offers many opportunities to get active, and one of our absolute favorites is our mutual aid program called Adopt a Clinic.
Adopt a Clinic is a great way for the public to support independent clinics, abortion funds, clinic escort groups, and patients directly by ordering much-needed items from their wish lists. This week, we're showcasing family planning associates in California seeking help in providing their patients with Uber gift cards for the transportation challenges that affect them accessing reproductive health care and keeping their scheduled appointments.
That's right. So just go on to our website and support. Listen, there's a lot we want to talk about, so let's get to some headlines in our steaming dump of this week's abortion news.
Okay, we're going to kick it off with a quick update. So remember a few weeks ago when we reported on the horrific story out of Brooklyn where a pregnant woman was arrested on a low-level drug offense, was put in shackles, and gave birth in her pants in a Brooklyn courtroom? Horror. So the update is they had a hearing about the incident that was almost as bad as the story itself. When officials testified before a judge, they actually said, quote, actually her shackles were taken off as she gave birth.
Oh, so she just labored in shackles. Okay, cool.
Unbelievable. Can you believe that they actually thought by saying, oh, we unshackled her in that last 5 seconds when she gave birth in her pants. She wasn't shackled the whole time.
The longest part of labor is laboring. So she was shackled for most of the time. And then literally when the baby came out, they were like, oh, I guess she should not be shackled for this part. She should not be shackled at all, bitches.
It's so bad. The good news is when they testified, there was such outrage and their response was so flawed and was so cruel that the state has proposed a new bill that prohibits the use of restraints by law enforcement when a person who is known to be pregnant in labor and delivery or 12 weeks post-pregnancy while they are in custody of law enforcement. And the bill will also prohibit the use of restraints on incarcerated women during transport to medical care, absent of extraordinary circumstances. This is great. But yes.
Why wasn't this included when New York banned prisons and jails from restraining pregnant people in 2009? Why?
I don't know why. It's insane.
The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union of New York, states that the state law doesn't apply to police stations or other custodial settings besides prison and jail. And that creates a loophole that this law could fix. So, amen.
A fucking man. But it's just an outrage that, like, every time it has to be some horrible thing that happens to someone before they do anything for healthcare for people who, especially people who are pregnant. It's just gross.
And also, that law passed in 2009. This was an egregious example. In between that time, I'm sure hundreds of pregnant women have really just suffered because of this.
Yep.
My heart breaks.
Yep.
But my heart just keeps breaking. And it just reminds me that there are no safe states for pregnant people in this country. Listen to this horror out of Illinois. This 28-year-old Barrington, Illinois woman suspected she was having an ectopic pregnancy. And when she arrived at the emergency room of a local Catholic hospital, she wasn't examined by OBGYN. They just did an ultrasound, saw a mass in her remaining fallopian tube, and then made her an appointment the next day at a Medi-Spa. Liz, a Medi-Spa.
A Medi-Spa. For those of you that do not go to Medi-Spas, those are the places that the Mar-a-Lago face people go for Botox and fillers and lasers. And it's not a place for urgent, life-saving medical care. And here's the kicker. The doctor there refused to treat her. Thank fucking God, because he's not a fucking OBGYN, but did feel the need to counsel her on weighing the life of the mother and the 1% chance that her ectopic pregnancy could be a child.
Okay, so this fucking dude thinks that just because he removes cell with dermabrasion that he can weigh in on a pregnancy cell? Fuck you.
Fuck you. That's like going to a dentist and being like, hey, you work on cavities. What should I do about my ectopic pregnancy? But it gets worse. It gets worse. Okay, so she left Dr. Mar-a-Lago face and went to a third clinic, which turned her away. And finally, a fourth hospital treated her. Now, remember, this has been a 24-hour period that this woman has gone to 4 different places to get care for an emerging fallopian tube burst.
And when she finally got care at the 4th place, and the icing on the fuckery cake, sadly, 6 days after her treatment, the fallopian tube ruptured and she had to undergo surgery. Surgery that, if she'd received the medication a few hours earlier, she may not have needed. And that delay cost her her fallopian tube. This is insane.
It's insane. And what's crazy after all of this is the asshole at the Medi-Spa is suing her for defamation.
Did you not give her medication or not? Fortunately, she's suing the first hospital. It's a Catholic hospital, and even in safe states, Catholic hospitals may not give you the care you deserve because of their conscience.
And also, just remember, Catholic hospitals are gobbling up public hospitals. So it is more likely than not that your primary hospital or the hospital that's closest to you is going to be a Catholic hospital. So that is why it is just imperative that we do not allow these places to turn us away. It's fucking insane.
It's insane.
I know. Now,
Also crazy and not quite New Jersey.
our last news update here is really a doozy. It's a weird ass story. Like, it's really some anti-abortion inside baseball that we wanted to like get you guys in on, because this story is so weird. We wanted to share it with you. So Randall Terry and Teresa Bukovac, the Carrie and Big of the anti-abortion underworld, are in the news this week, not for being a disgusting toxic power couple,
Which they are.
yes, they are, but because of their political shenanigans. Now, both of them are trying to run for Congress in New Jersey in 2 different districts.
Okay, that's also weird just to start. Why would they be in 2 different districts?
Exactly.
Don't they live in one place?
Well, Moji, tell them.
It turns out they don't. Okay, so Terry, he lives in Tennessee, and you may have heard of him, you may not have. He's best known for being an OG abortion clinic terrorist and fomenting so much violent rhetoric against Dr. George Tiller that many people, and I think I agree, that his relentless hate led to the assassination of Dr. Tiller. So inexplicably, he filed to run for Congress in New Jersey 7 as an independent to challenge a rep, Thomas Keene, who is a Republican. And this is crazy because that dude has been missing for 3 months. No one's
3
seen him.
months.
No one's heard from him. He's just a missing congressman that's just gone. But Terry also, in addition to filing in New Jersey 7, He also filed to run in Hawaii, but I want to remind you, just circle back, he lives in Tennessee.
He lives in Tennessee. So the New Jersey GOP filed a lawsuit being like, yeah, he doesn't live here. He doesn't live in Hawaii and should not be able to run for Congress. And he broke the law when he lied on his eligibility oath. And my favorite part is Terry just decided to quietly drop out of the race this week, claiming, I clearly didn't read the law correctly.
He just quiet quit election like fraud or something.
But
I
also,
don't know.
what law do you need to read to know that if you don't live someplace, you can't run for Congress in that place? Twice, two different places.
They didn't follow up. But let's get to his new bride, Teresa Bukovac, who we also assume lives with him in Tennessee because they're married. And she filed to run in New Jersey's 9th district.
So maybe they don't live together. If she's filing to run in a different district than him.
Teresa is a self-proclaimed progressive pro-life atheist, which is a whole lot of words that don't actually go together. What a word salad. And she's best known for stealing 115 fetuses from a medical disposal service, and then she named them, passed them around to her anti-abortion friends, made unboxing videos about them, blessed them, and then buried them in an undisclosed location, all while proclaiming abortion providers are ghouls. It's not ghoulish to just do whatever you want with 115 fetuses? Okay.
Apparently not. So this is the hilarious part. While the New Jersey GOP was like, we have to get Randall Terry off the ballot because that guy's actually super influential in OG, like Catholic right to life New Jersey politics and could actually steal votes from the guy that's disappeared.
Disappeared, the guy who's not campaigning because he's not around?
Yeah. But the fetus thief over here is like such a mess that the Democrats in New Jersey were like, you know what? Let her stay on the ballot. We don't give a shit. She's just a wackadoodle. We don't care. We don't care. Let her stay on. So who knows what's going to happen? Maybe she'll be on the ballot in New Jersey. Maybe they'll move to New Jersey. I don't know. Maybe the New Jersey 9th will have somebody who lives in Tennessee representing them. The whole thing is a shit show, but I cannot wait.
Whatever's happening, we will be there with our popcorn, watching and cackling.
100%. That is just too much fun to not tell you because there's just a lot of twists and turns. And, you know, anytime there's anti-abortion royalty, and I say royalty very loosely.
You really are just throwing that word around.
Yeah, it's sort of like Walder Frey from Game of Thrones being royalty. You know, it's like that kind of royalty. Not great. But I think it's time to move on to our big story of the week because we got a big one. So here's the deal. As we are going on and on and on about trying to get everybody's medication abortion stories and really trying to protect ourselves, this is the reason why. So apparently, within hours of taking his job as interim FDA head, Kyle Diamantis started calling several pro-life leaders, including the head of the March for Life and Lila Rose from Live Action, and Students for Life's Kristen Hawkins.
Oh gosh, the oldest student in the world.
All of them, right? So he's calling them all up panicking because they're super concerned that more hasn't been done at the FDA to try to get Miffy off the market, to try to get it so you can't send it to the mail, to try to get something done. He even told Kristen Hawkins, who, by the way, is spearheading the, if you drink tap water, you could be drinking an abortion, that he was going to be the most, quote, pro-life FDA head in history.
What does that even mean?
Well, it means who knows what. There's a couple of reasons why they're sus. They're sus because the last guy didn't do shit. He promised them he was going to look into some bullshit study they tried to get him to look at. He looked at it and he was like, hey, this study is actually garbage.
Yes.
And then he just wasn't pushing things along. And, you know, I think what sealed the deal for him wasn't even that. I think Trump was saying to him and whispering in his ear, like, tell him you're going to do stuff. Just put it off because we don't want to talk about abortion before the midterms. So they fired him on some, like, he wouldn't get blueberry vapes to kids.
It was blueberry vapes.
Yeah. So that guy was gone. And then they bring in this guy, right? And this guy is sus for a couple of reasons. One, he was an attorney for a Planned Parenthood in Florida for 3 years, and they were very upset about that. So he had to quell those fears right off the bat because he was apparently worked at a firm that took on Planned Parenthood in some tenant-landlord dispute, and he made it very clear to these anti-abortion people that he was forced to be there. He didn't believe in abortion. He took himself off the case. It was very upsetting. So he had to quell that.
But the biggest takeaway that was reported by some of these groups that met with him was that he promised to start an FDA study to look into the safety of Miffy. So we have this bullshit study that is obviously toilet paper, but he's like, oh no, we can do a new something. We can do a new something. And the questions are, what kind of study? Is he promising that to just shut them up? Is he really going to go forward with this study? We don't know, actually.
I know. I mean, there's no deadlines, right? There's no what kind of study. The one thing we do know is that if the FDA does a study, they'll probably use a research firm that uses insurance data to come up with some kind of study, which proves nothing about the efficacy of a drug. It only shows basically who has access to insurance for medication abortion. So it all feels really messy. And so, I mean, there's good news, I guess. We've been talking to some researchers and experts who deal directly with the FDA, who have explained that it's really hard to change any kind of FDA regulation that's put in place. It has to go through a rigorous process. Up until this point, I should say, certainly an acting FDA person isn't going to be the one that's be able to do it. Then it has to go to Congress. A lot of stuff has to happen.
No, and we know that because of the pill that was approved, the generic that was approved in the fall, they were up in arms about, but it was like the wheels of the FDA just run the way they do, and they're in place, and it's hard to knock them off the tracks. But I don't know.
But, that's then, this is now, who knows? So because we should just trust nothing that comes out of an RFK, HHS, FDA, we need to be vigilant and really follow this story to see who he's courting, what that looks like when they announce the study, who the people are that will be doing the research, if it ever happens, when it comes out, all that stuff. Because if they try to push it off so that it's not going to affect the midterms, what happens after the midterms? There's a lot to think about here. But in the meantime, again, I hate to keep hammering home, but since we don't know, this is why we really need your Miffy stories. So please, let's combat whatever they try to throw at us with our own stories and get to miffystories.com. Tell your stories and experiences so we can be in control of whatever narrative they try to throw out to us.
And that seems like a good note to get to our amazing guests.
Indeed. She is one of our favorite doctor influencers over on Insta, mixing facts with amazing takedowns of the pseudoscience psychos. She has just released The Birth Book, a guide to all things labor and delivery, a must-read to inform everyone planning to give birth of exactly what to expect and how to advocate for the birth you want. Please welcome Portland-based OBGYN social media educator and mother of two, Dr. Jennifer Lincoln.
Hello.
Dr. Jen, how are you?
Oh, I'm so much better now that I'm here with you both. This is where we need to be. If we can just stay in this little bubble.
This is where we need to be. We love you so much. And you are one of my favorite people just in general with information, but also you have this skill online to be clapbacky and also kind and also smart. Most people are really good at one, but you do this ninja thing that I love when it comes to just facts and dispelling myths and all that shit. So
I just want to say thank you, but I think that's what happens when you grew up going to Catholic schools and you're a Virgo and you're an only child and it's survival. You gotta learn
how to juggle.
Works.
Yeah. 100%. Say more about that. Cause I'd love to know just a little bit about how this only child Virgo ended up in medical school and becoming an OBGYN and then becoming major league on top of it.
Well, it all began probably in the backseat of my dad's Chevelle, where I was an unplanned teen pregnancy. Yeah. 1971, I think, Chevelle.
Where? Where?
In Queens, New York, of course.
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my mom's from Flushing, my dad's from Maspeth. Right,
you're practically Fran Drescher.
Basically, yeah. So I was not part of the plan, but yet here I was. And what's funny is when people try to insult me online and they're like, your mom should have aborted you. And I'm like, probably she should have, because they were in no shape to have a child. Yet here we are.
Here I am being a problem for you. You're welcome.
Right. Listen, I'm tired too. I really don't want to be here either, but nobody asked me. So what happened was my mom was 19 when she had me. My dad was 20. And out of the womb, I think they both came from totally messed up families. And they were like, oh my God, she can't do this same thing. So let's scare the crap out of her and be super strict and tell her she should be a doctor. Cause that's what they're like, well, that, of course, if you're that, you'll be fine. And I internalized it like the good, you know, eldest daughter, only daughter that I am, Virgo. And I got all the grades and I went to Catholic schools because they're like, if she goes to Catholic school, then she'll really be okay.
Oh my God.
Of course, as one does. And I went to an all-girls Catholic high school where Sister Mary Claire taught me about how to not have sex and not go to hell and die. And I internalized all of it. You guys, I was like, yes, abortion, straight to hell. I read the Bible for fun. Like, but I tried to read all the dirty parts because there were a lot. And then I went to college and I was like, oh, wait, maybe good people do have sex.
Wait, Catholic college too?
No. I broke free at that point. But I did follow a boy there. Anyway, it's a lot happened. And then I went to med school and it was good because I actually did want to be a doctor. It was, like that worked out. And then I went to med school in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina happened. I just saw so much like terrible things. And I was like, I want to be an OB and I want to help people. And now I talk about sex every day as revenge to Sister Claire, who was like, no, you can't do that. And what's so funny, you guys, is my parents were like, we never believed any of that, Jen. We were just so worried you were going to do what we did. And so as soon as I got married and graduated med school, they started getting tattoos and like living their best life again. And
oh my God, that's hilarious.
You literally you derailed your parents from their good times and they were like, mission accomplished. Now we can be our true selves.
Sure did. They're living their best lives. And I sit here, I'm 44, and I think back to my parents at my wedding who were my age and they were done. Like, so maybe, I joke, but like maybe having a kid at 18, 19 is the way to go because then you could be done.
You could be done. And exactly coming into like, if you're a woman, you're coming into your sexual, my 40s, forget about it. I was like a ravenous nightmare sexual being.
Right. You don't care what people think about you.
Yeah, you don't care. Yeah, the male gaze is done. You're just like having shit for fun and you're not raising kids. I think you might be onto something.
Yeah, well, they're living their best life. So anyway, so that's my story. And then I got on social media in 2018 when I was like feeling just really alone, especially as a physician mom. Like it's a weird place to be. Like when you go to the playground, you don't always want to talk about like vaginal discharge. I'll do it sometimes, but like I just want mom friends. Anyway, so I found this community and then people were educating. I was like, oh, I could do that because I wanted to undo all the crap that I was never taught. And I was like, how can I explain it? Talk to me like I'm my 15-year-old self, and undo all the shame that comes with it.
And so at what point in your social media journey when you were like, oh, I'm actually helping people, like this social media thing is really impactful and really help get the message out?
Well, Moji, like almost immediately, because my first TikTok that I posted, so I went on TikTok just a few months before COVID, because I was like, I'm not doing that. And my friends were like, that's where all your young folks are. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And my first video that I put up, which was so benign, didn't make it through the censors because it had like the word sex. And it was a video like, you don't have to have sex if your boyfriend says you have, like it's very simple. Mm-hmm. And then I tried it again and I was like, well, I'll just do it. And I went to bed. I woke up, it had like 1 million views. And I was like, oh, we got something here. And I would get messages from people who are like, I didn't go to the gynecologist and then I saw your video and then I did. And now I'm so happy. Or I was able to tell my doctor this or my partner that. Or then when Roe fell, good Lord, just all the messages of people. Some of them were traumatic to the point where I read them on the floor of the United Nations Human Rights Review in Geneva. But like, people who were like, because of you, we figured out how to get abortion pills. And I was like, okay, all right, I can do this.
Oh, so you're literally changing lives with your social media presence. Incredible.
But then there's the trolls and then you just laugh because you're like, oh, you called me that? Like, but it's a wild, as you guys know, it's a wild world and trying to beat the algorithms and trying to figure out how do you engage people in a world where everything's a hook or whatever. And as somebody who loves to read like novels and write, like it kills me sometimes where I'm like, how can I say this in 8 seconds or less? But I am too scrolling past if you don't give me a hook. So I get it.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing that I found so incredible is how many people have no one in their lives. And so when you tell your abortion story or you give medical advice or you just present as somebody who cares, the floods of people, it's astounding. And I think that that's of all the things that I get so angry about the Trump administration for in cutting all of the ways that programs can be accessed and programs that people need. It's just removing an already empty resource facility, right?
Yep.
And so what you're doing is even more important than ever.
I mean, we shouldn't need to, right? Like we shouldn't need,
Right.
depending on the day, and you probably feel this too. You're like, social media is great, it fills a gap. And then you're just angry. You're like, why do we need to make videos that debunk the garbage that's out there? And then you can't get mad at people who fall for it because they can't get in to see a doctor because there is no doctor, or they can't get in for 6
Right.
months, or they can't pay, you know?
Or their school didn't teach them sex ed and they just are running with misinformation and shame. and
Exactly.
They're living their lives without facts. And it's really unfortunate that they have to look to social media to get real answers.
I co-sign that. It's so true.
Jen, is there a recurring thing that people ask you the most? Like if you could say, wow, this is a question I get all the time and I cannot believe how often I get it.
Yeah. People still don't know that they can get abortion pills mailed to them no matter where they live. Like so much misinformation or misunderstanding about that. And then, you know, on the flip side, like people still, no matter how many videos I make about birth control, people will still say, but no, it causes infertility. It, you know, it makes it harder to get pregnant. And I'm just like, it makes me so angry. Again, I'm not mad at them, right? Like they saw a video, or they're seeing now all these coordinated videos that are coming out saying how terrible birth control is, because we know that Maha and the right are literally putting these talking points out. And it's super damaging. Or this idea that if you're on birth control at a young age, it somehow ruins your body. That this mistrust, especially of OBGYNs, women's healthcare, see it constantly. And it's just getting worse, quite frankly. And it's really hard to see out there.
It's really getting worse. They're coordinating. And I feel like Liz asked about the normies, but I actually want to know, what is some of the most ridiculous like Maha influencer shit that you've heard? And you were like, the fuck? Like, how did you even dream this up? When did you poop this out?
Yeah, there's this guy, Gary, and I can't remember his handle or whatever, but he talks about how if you're born by C-section, that it somehow like messes up your brain. And if he does this like chiropractic maneuver on you, it releases your brain so that your kids aren't as angry. And I think it's called human garage.
What?
I keep thinking it's called human garbage. I am not making this shit up. And it's all this like, woo, you know, like woo woo, whatever, but it adds this extra layer of shame to folks who need a C-section, right? You're like, oh no, I've messed up my kid already, you know? Like, I think all the crap that we just see, like the ridiculous misinformation about vaccines, like breaks my heart, because people literally are going to die from it. And I'm really worried about what we're just seeing in terms of now they're also not wanting to, you know, have vitamin K at birth or other things. So we're going to start to see these things that we never saw before, like bleeds in the brains, you know, these other measles deaths. Like it's just, and it's hard because it's parents who are trying to make these choices and they have no idea, because they're getting information from a really flawed source, and they have no idea how to think about that and like dive into it because they've never been taught. How do you read a study? Or, you know, who do you trust? Yeah.
Who's interested in reading a study, right? Like you really have to be a reader and want to get granular to even want to read a study. I like the summaries.
But shouldn't we trust the people who make the studies?
We
I mean, that's
should.
the problem, right?
I know, but then it's complicated, right? Because there's bad data out there too, like that garbage
Right.
EPPE, whatever it is, study about mifepristone, like sending people to the ED, and it looks good. And it's just, I think we just live in this era of where, like, again, give me a hook and explain it to me in 20 seconds. And good science can't always be explained in 20 seconds. And sometimes I want you to dive in and do research and understand. And just like I could do research on my car, I'm not a mechanic and I wouldn't trust myself to diagnose and fix it.
That's
like,
exactly
There's
right.
something to be said for expertise.
Yes, there's absolutely something to be said for expertise. And that's actually why I want to get into your book, which is just full of expertise. I read it. I'm a parent, a proud C-section mom. And when I chose to give birth and become a parent, there was so much to learn. Like, I love that you even brought up the vitamin K shot, because even as an older parent, as a geriatric pregnancy, I didn't know what the vitamin K shot was and how important it was. And mothers around me gave me insight. Like I read books, anecdotes, but there's just a lot to learn. And I would have loved to have your book.
Oh, thank you.
No, I really find it really informative. Like there was a range of perspectives. You weren't like, oh, you have to have a natural birth, or like, oh, you have to have a C-section. It was very much just like, this is what you could do and this is how it would look. You've talked a little bit about your social media, but was there a single light bulb moment when you were like, oh, fuck, I've got to write this book? Or was it just like the steady
Oh, yeah.
accumulation of like bullshit and grievances? And you were just like, I gotta write this book.
Yeah. So the moment I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. The moment was when I realized, and I had a friend tell me, she's like, all the OBGYNs are recommending this book written by an economist to their patients who are having a baby. And anybody could figure out who I'm talking about here. And I'm not here to say that her book is bad, but it says something when the book that other doctors are recommending when it comes to pregnancy is written by someone who has no clinical expertise in it. Now, she does have expertise in understanding studies, but she misses that clinical nuance. And I thought, why has nobody written a book about, and I just wanted to focus on the birth part, because all the other books, it's like the afterthought, it's like get pregnant and very important, right? Pregnancy, all that stuff. But like women and people who give birth deserve the granular knowledge of what's going to happen because we can handle it. It's not going to scare us. We're not hysterical. And they deserve, I think, to have that information by somebody who does it every day. So the book, the birth book, which is out now, you can get it anywhere. I decided to write it. And people are like, well, you should have talked about pregnancy too. Well, it's almost 400 pages just about birth. And I wanted to write a book that really understood and highlighted that people like me, OBGYNs, we have a lot to answer for when it comes to the reasons why people don't trust us and our field. And I share in the book why, yes, home birth can be safe. Why, yes, vitamin K is really important and I'm going to tell you about it, but I'm also never going to force something on you because I'm not going to violate your autonomy. And it's why I talk about abortion in it. Like, I just think people who are pregnant, they deserve this information. At the end of the day, you're going to decide, but let me give it to you in a way that like, here's what the data shows, here's my clinical expertise, but you do with it what you will. And I hope it helps people because we see birth as traumatic in this country. It's getting worse. And I think this stems from the beginning. When you don't tell people how babies are made, you sure as hell aren't teaching them how it's like when they're born and what they can do to get a birth they want and deserve.
It's so true. And I feel like when it comes to all other areas of health, no one's afraid to tell somebody what's going to happen to them when in the kind of rehab they'll need after their knee surgery or their whatever. But like when it comes to like, when I take medication abortion, what will happen to me? When I give birth, what will happen to me? Why we are afraid to talk about blood and tissue and whatever, I simply don't understand it. And the thing I love about your book is the way you've laid it out. It's sort of a choose your own adventure situation where you can go to any chapter and read about X and take it in, right? You don't have to start at any one place or finish at any one place. And I think that that's a really interesting choice, especially when you're somebody, I think, I've never carried a pregnancy to term, but I have been pregnant. And when your hormones and your questions about what's going to happen to me when I give birth are leading you down some path, you don't want to have to check the index. You can check the thing that you're thinking about right now and go to that thing. Was that an intentional choice? Because I loved the choice.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that you're saying this. So two things. The first is that in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm writing for the TikTok, Instagram generation. So it has to be, what would you type in the search bar? So it has to be Q&A, question and answer. So that's exactly why I went for that. I love a good narrative read. That's me. But when you're in that moment and you're like, I need to know, what is misoprostol and why are they using it? Like, you need to be able to turn to that page. So that's exactly why I set it up like that. So thank you. And the other thing too is my editor was like, no, Jen, we don't put the questions in the beginning. That's not how these books are laid out. We just put it in each section. And I said, you have to, because that pregnant person at 3 a.m. is going to go right to the beginning and be like, where the hell is this answer? And I'm so glad she did. They listened and they trusted me because or if it's, your doctor's in the room and they're telling you, hey, you need a C-section, go to the question that says, my doctor says I need a C-section. What can I say? Boom, right there. That was very much intentional. So I'm so glad it translated.
Yeah, totally.
And this leads directly into my next question because I proudly declared that I'm a C-section mom. That wasn't my first choice. I'm a C-section mom because my child was breech. And basically once your child is breech and they won't turn, they really do like railroad you into a C-section. And so I found out late, my mom was like, oh, you could find a different OB. And I was like, I don't know. I'm giving birth in a month. I'm not doing that. But I didn't realize until I was on the table, right? I talked to my OB. We'd made compromises with my partner and the father of my child, like with the doctor, like, okay, can we do skin to skin after the birth? Like we were, figuring out stuff. But I didn't realize until I was at the table, I already had the IV in. And then they gave me a paper to sign, like, okay, now we need you to consent to the C-section. And I was like, what? What do you mean I have to consent now? I thought I consented a week ago when we So you're saying I could just stop it right now? Like how?
Yeah.
And like my kid is 10, like we're not going to go back in time and relitigate that. But how could access to your book help another person who's pregnant, just and feels like the train is moving and you're like on it, you're at the last stop, just better evaluate their choices and just push for a different outcome or a change in care?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I think in two ways it could help. And the first is that if you're able to read it ahead of time, you are asking these questions ahead of time. So when you're at that visit, you're breech, okay, tell me about a C-section. Can we go through that? Can we sign the consent? Because a consent is not just a sign of paper, it's a conversation, and we could talk about that all day. And the second is that if you don't have that, I have multiple places in the book where I say, here's the things you can just say, like just arm yourself with these words of what are our other options? Do we have time to talk? For your partner or doula, like here's the way you can help by asking these specific questions. And the real harm and where birth trauma comes in is when people were like, if I had known this could have been different, but no, I didn't know this. And that regret, that's what kills you. That's what makes you feel like you didn't have control. So if people can read this ahead of time in order to know, you don't have to memorize everything, but be like, oh, I remember there was something about that. Yeah. Let me go back and look, let me remind that. Let me make sure my partner reads this too. Because we are within a system that sometimes is not set up to serve us. Yeah. And so we do need that tension, that pushback of like, oh, no. I know I can get better. So I'm going to advocate for it. And then it tells the people who are doing the care like, oh, okay, yeah. And it tells us when the train's going down the path, you can put the brakes on.
Mm-hmm. When I hear these stories of how much control is taken away from you when you're giving birth. Mm-hmm. It's always heartbreaking when I hear these just little nuances of like, had I known that before, had I known to ask that, And for me, Jen, one of the things about you in your advocacy as a whole and also in this book is you buck all of the systems of like people on our side who are still engaging in shame and stigma around birth and abortion together. And of course, the forced birthers who just really hate any kind of combination of like, how can you talk about abortion and birth and pregnancy and miscarriage all in one thing? You understand profoundly that abortion care needs to be part of our conversation, and you include it in the birth book. So tell folks why, and louder for those in the back who do not understand why, you include abortion in your book and about why it's part of the work you do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Liz. Because it's all the same damn spectrum. And if we try to put it in these silos, that's so like not accurate and does not do us any service. And yeah, I include in the book why you need to know the religious affiliation of your hospital. And yes, I'm talking about Catholic hospitals. And yes, I work at a Catholic hospital. And yes, I'm unionized, so I can say a lot of things and be safe. But I include the hypothetical scenario, which if any of you know, you recognize, I'm talking about Amanda Zarowski, who's now a friend of mine, who like this story of your bag of water breaks at 18 weeks. What can happen? Why you should think about where you travel. Why you should understand how if you're in Louisiana and you need miscarriage care or you hemorrhage and they can't get the misoprostol in time, this is how abortion and birth, it's all the same. And so I just wanted to come at it from a place of whether or not you're like, oh, I would have an abortion, you need to understand how it's going to affect your care, and it's all the same. And my goal, including stillbirth, is to destigmatize, because if we don't make these little footnotes at the end, like, let's talk about it. And let me show you how this could happen to you. And we all know a friend or we know somebody who this happened to them. And maybe they got the care they needed, maybe they didn't. But if we can normalize these conversations, then maybe people will think about it when they show up to get their care, talk to their doctor, choose their hospital, or vote, because it's all intertwined, right?
All of it.
We all know this, but I feel like it cannot be said enough. And hearing it from a clinical doctor and an OBG means a whole lot.
I was literally on a call with creators, and we were talking about medication abortion, and these are lifestyle creators, which is great, right? Everybody needs to talk about this. But the number of them who said, I never had heard of medication abortion. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, it's all I talk about. What am I doing wrong? But we have to keep going because the algorithms are against. We have to saturate it and keep saying it over and over again because people have not heard about this stuff, even though it's like our everyday.
And I think also in our destigmatizing it, reminding people that it's not an ignorance thing, right? Like we all have our silos. I remember talking to a lawyer friend once and she was like, well, I could never take the abortion pill. And I was like, why not? And she was like, well, I have a heart condition. And I was like, and like, you are smart in the ways you are smart, but you just don't know this. And you kind of need an expert in this to talk to get the information you need.
Yeah.
And we have to resist, because we are all creative people, we have to resist our own boredom in repetitive things.
Yeah, you're like, I made this video 6 months ago. You do.
Yeah, you have to do it all the time. All
Yeah.
the time. And it really, really matters. And in us doing this Miffy Stories project, it's incredible how many people I've heard say the same thing. What's a medication abortion? And I was like, it's an abortion with pills. And they're like, what is that? Is that plan B? It's like, no, plan B is birth control.
And you have the moment, you go into the closet, you scream, and then you come back out and you're like, okay.
For sure. I mean, but it's so true. And it should be a reminder to all of us how we don't even realize how shadow banned we are when we're talking online, how little our shit is breaking through. Because I know that I sometimes like to just post pictures of me in my vintage clothes because I have a whole closet full of them. And I seethe with rage when my cute outfit gets like 9,000 likes. And then my story about something important around birth control or abortion is like 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is why you have to figure out ways around, and you have to really build community and talk to people who aren't like us and say, hey, I know you talk about makeup, but let's weave this in.
Sure, for sure.
In this book, you wrote an incredible guide about birth, about current options for people, but the landscape is changing really quickly. And what are the things that keep you up at night about how this administration is altering healthcare and the impact it could have for people who are birthing pregnant people?
Well, I'm just terrified about the collapse of the healthcare system, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but when we see the labor and delivery units closing, the OBGYNs leaving, the fact that we already have a shortage coming, I am really concerned. And as a hospitalist, OB hospitalist, we get patients who come in who don't have care or were transferred from God knows where because there was nothing. And you see what happens when problems are delayed, just like in abortion, same with birth. And so I'm really worried that pregnant folks are going to really be left behind. And this administration isn't going to care when they're cutting, all these things. And I'm really worried what's going to happen when people don't understand how to protect themselves from pregnancy because they were scared out of methods that worked. So that keeps me up at night. And then just the dismantling of systems that people used to trust, like the CDC and FDA and those sorts of things. But I tell everybody, and I give a lot of lectures to med students, I'm like, guys, it feels like crap right now. And it is. But then I talk about historical moments. I'm like, imagine if you were alive during the Civil War, when JFK and Martin Luther King got assassinated, when a nuclear bomb went off. Every generation thought this was the end. And yet we made it out. And we're going to make it out of this. It's just going to get worse before it gets better. But you have to keep in it because otherwise they win. And it's really hard. And maybe that is when you need to go microdose or take a vacation or something.
Or just a mini coma.
Right. Or that mini coma we talk exactly. But it's okay to take a step back and have a moment. And, you can't think that you can fix everything, but keep at it. Yes, I'm up at night. Sometimes it's because of Victor Wembanyama. Sometimes it's because of abortion stuff, but we're going to get through it. We are, because of stuff like this. There's so many of us. And when you think of the data, all the people who actually we all actually agree a lot.
Yeah.
These fake ideas that we're so divided. And I love throwing those statistics out to people in my comment section who are like, nobody likes abortion. I'm like, everybody actually loves it.
Statistically, that is the worst statement ever. Also, too, not to put a big shout out for people my age, but shout out to people my age because we have the wisdom of being able to work in conditions where we didn't have the internet before, how we were talking to each other, how we were communicating through all of those methods of zines and newsletters and all of that kind of stuff. We may have to go back to some analog stuff. So talk to people who were radicals before the internet, A, to help you figure that out. And B, this book is for everyone because it gives this overarching way and information around birth so that if you are never going to be a birthing person, you're not a birthing person, you can actually help give good wisdom to others. And it's for everybody who is going to have a baby, but there's people who don't read. There's people who are scared to read all the stuff about what's going to happen to them. And to be able to be a resource hub for somebody else is huge. So if you buy this book, you should, for anybody who's going to be birthing, but also for yourself to have as a resource. If somebody says, do you happen to know? It's like, I do happen to know. Let me look and I will tell you.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. So it is called The Birth Book. It is amazing. Jen, where can people find you? And where can people find The Birth Book?
Oh, thank you, Liz. You can find it wherever books are sold. Yes, it's on the big, bookseller and the big Amazon, but please support local independent bookstores. You can get it in book format. I also narrated the audiobook. We could talk about that all day. That was a journey being from New York. They're like, slow down. I'm like, I can't.
I loved it. I listened to the audiobook half the time.
Oh,
It was
yay!
fantastic. So great job, Jen. Great job.
Thank you. There was a lot of curses you didn't hear, and they're like, you can't say that, Jen. I'm like, okay. So you can get it anywhere. You can also get it at a local library and ask your library to carry it to help people who can't afford books.
Yeah, that's huge.
So you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Jennifer Lincoln. But my website, drjenniferlincoln.com, there's a specific page where I have resources from the birth book as well. And those are free. You don't have to buy the book, but it's got the questions to ask your midwife, your hospital, birth preferences, but also a ton of references and resources that you can, if you're going into your OBGYN's office and you're like, oh, why aren't you offering it? Weird, I have this paper, or let's talk about this together. And you just throw me under the bus and be like, hey, I saw this on this website. Because I think people deserve that. We need to start these conversations. And yeah, and you can follow me wherever. And depending on the day, we're talking about birth or abortion or, the Knicks or my coffee addiction. It's all fine.
It's all there. Jen, you are an incredible read, an incredible resource, and we're lucky to have you on this planet. And we're so lucky to have you on the pod today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Best part of my day.
We'll put all of Jen's links and all of this week's stories in our show notes. And if you're looking for the most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care and funding for your care, why don't you hit up our friends at abortionfinder.org.
That's right. Plus, we do this show because this information is not given enough attention in the media. So help us spread the word by showing some love, by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating wherever you pod. Every bit helps and helps us reach more listeners. Also, give us a review. We don't get very many reviews. Pop a review up there.
We're great. You should review us.
100%.
And now the party game that is faster than Monopoly and more fun than Taboo. It's 6 Degrees of Abortion, and this is when I take a story from the news, and Liz has 6 chances to link it to abortion. Let's see if I can stump her this week. I feel like I was on a roll, that I was off the roll, and now I'm back on the roll. This is a weird one. I just thought it was funny.
Go next. Okay.
No. That's exactly the vibe. That's not what my story is, but that is exactly the vibe of the podcast this week. So, star I know nothing about Zac Efron. I don't really care about him, but he is constructing a new home in Australia made entirely out of cannabis, including a washing machine with a cannabis drum. This sounds fucking crazy. And so I just wanted to say, can you link abortion to Australia?
To Australia.
Australia.
Abortion.
Yeah. Abortion to
Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Probably. We did a fundraiser in LA years ago, one of our first Abortion Access Front fundraisers. And the caterer of the event was on tour with Tina Turner as a caterer. Her name is Kate. And she was on break from Tina Turner and loved Abortion Access Front and catered our event for like 5 cents. So, and she's from Sydney.
That's in Australia.
Kate, the caterer to Abortion Access Front to abortion.
Woohoo!
How about that?
That sounds pretty great. How was the food? How was Kate the caterer's delicious food?
Really, really good. I mean, Tina Turner looked really, really good for a really, really long time on tours. So I'm thanking Kate for that. I'm thinking that's Kate's delight, delovely.
I like that we got Tina Turner in there too. I know she wasn't the link, but any opportunity to bring up her name.
I mean, hello. I feel like that's exactly correct. I like closing the show out on Tina Turner. That feels fun.
It feels like it's the same as closing the show on a high kick, I feel like that woman can do a kick because that is our show.
That's our show.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks again to Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, and buy the birth book. It is astounding. Just go to your local indie bookstore and pick it up. It's worth it.
That's right. Did we make you smarter today? Did we make you laugh? Show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. And give us a review. I'm going to start saying, and give us a review. We need some reviews.
Hell yeah, we do.
Right? And if you want to go extra, you can do. Say it with me, Moji. 1, 2, 3. Join our Patreon.
Go Knicks.
That's right. Go Knicks. You'll support great content, get cool merch and experiences. And again, as we say all the time, your pledges not only support the pod, but all of our work at Abortion Access Front. You can just easily pledge at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.
Plus, Abortion Access Front brings the news and info every day. So stay connected with us on social media at Abortion Front across all platforms, including Bluesky. And with your help, we can get more people to learn about this assault on abortion access.
That's right. And another reminder, a third reminder, maybe a fourth reminder, please head over to miffystories.com, read the beautiful stories that have already been submitted and add yours. If you don't have a story, please share with someone who does to what participate you just heard, why they're so important. So head over to miffystories.com.
Our voices, our power, and our truth can help set everyone free. So again, that's miffystories.com. I will read it and I will be so excited too.
That's right. And if you want even more ways to get involved, sign up to volunteer. We need you. Go to our website, aafront.org, fill out the volunteer form, and let's figure it out together.
Join us next week as we sit down with Taja Lindley, Executive Director of All Options, to talk about the incredible, compassionate work All Options does and explore the powerful connection between Juneteenth, liberation, and reproductive justice.
The Feminist Buzzkills podcast is edited and produced by Remy DeTournay and Jin Moon for Abortion Access Front. So we leave you. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.